But then those who are at the lower level, they are almost with the mass of workers and the peasantry that is there. In fact, one of the latest committee report has shown that 80% of our people, 78 to 80% of our people, you see, are poor. Only 26% may be officially below the poverty line. That's another matter, poverty line.
How do you define poor? Not poverty. How do you define poor?
They are not able to meet all their needs, you see, of life. I am not saying as a consumerist, because consumerism, you see, is a phenomena which you see more in the middle class and in the affluent sections. These are people who want to meet their needs. I am saying those who are poor, you see, who may be able to provide 2 meals, you see, to their families, but who are not able to give a good education. And education is becoming more and more, you see, out of the excess of the middle class even.
So this 300 million middle class, it's a misnomer?
I think it's a misnomer. There is a great Indian middle class, but then these 300 million, as I said, are not homogeneous. There are different layers.
What elements of soft power or smart power do you see will contribute to India becoming a superpower?
Only if I say if it is able to solve the basic poverties, issues of unemployment, poverty, illiteracy and disease. Unless we are able to do that, you see, every time you see in the Human Development Index, we will be 124 or 125 and hovering around that number. So what is the point in that?
To what extent will India's fault lines like caste, religion, region, will limit its role in its emergence as a superpower?
It's a very apt question. And that is why I say that unless we are able to solve this question of poverty, illiteracy, disease, we won't be able to make our position, you see, as a world power. And so therefore that is the basic issue, that is the priority issue that we must tackle.
What are the worst or best case scenario for India in 2025?
The best scenario will be, you see, if we are able to establish, with India's help, a world where there is peace, where development is more just, equitable, where there is social justice. Only there, and our, you see, philosophers, our leaders, even Mahatma Gandhi, for instance, we have put some values and truth, you see, in the world. We have expounded that. But that has to be backed by actually our own efforts, what we can do in our own country.
What is the worst case scenario?
The worst case, you see, if we become a dependent power, you see, in the US, so-called strategic partnership, as they call it. If we become so dependent, I am sorry, you see, that the Indo-US nuclear deal and some of these deals, or the naval exercise which is to take place in the Bay of Bengal with US in the lead, and its other defense partners with whom they share defense treaties, Japan and Australia, and then India joining in, what for, against whom, and what is the objective of that? So therefore I say, you see, that is the worst scenario that can take place, and then India will not be able to solve its basic problems.
What are the best or worst case scenario for North-South relationship in 2025, and what will be its implications for India?
The worst solution is, you see, if the North exploits the South as it is doing today. The best scenario would be, you see, if we are able to establish what we used to say in the United Nations at one time as a new international economic order, which is based more or less on equality, equal trade and so forth. Today, you see, all these instruments, whether it is the World Bank or the IMF or the WTO, are all working only in the interests of the North. And the South is very much exploited. You see. Fortunately, India, Brazil, China, all of them have come together in order to fight this. We should be able to fight it more. After all, in the WTO, there is only one country, one vote. Unlike in many other places, in the World Bank and the IMF, that is not so. It is according to the investment strength of those countries. And therefore, America dominates them. But it is not so here. If we are able to really mobilize all the developing countries or the third world countries, we will be able to play a role in that case.
What kind of relationship do you see between India and Pakistan in 2025? And what will be the shape of South Asia?
I think, you see, that there is no other option. You cannot choose your neighbors. India and Pakistan are neighbors. And as neighboring countries who at one time, you see, shared many things, and who even today you see share many things in common: language, culture, literature, many things are common. These countries will have to live in peace, and so therefore we will have to solve our problems. And I think you see, if a solution can be found to the Kashmir problem which is satisfactory to the Kashmiri people, and at the same time you see agreed upon by India and Pakistan. If you are able to find a solution to that so-called Siachen glacier, which I don't think as to why it is going on all these years, we should be able to find a solution, or some of the other issues, then we'll have a peace in this region. And if there is peace in this region, there will be also development in this region. If development is held up in this region by any factor, it is the Indo-Pak it's a difference that is holding it up. Otherwise the SAARC countries will advance as much as the ASEAN.
Where do you see the largest minority, the Indian Muslim, placed in this emerging superpower scenario of India?
Unfortunately, you see, in the so-called superpower scenario, the theory of clash of civilization operates. And under that, the Muslim countries and the Muslim people are the targets. The so-called war on terror, which actually has become a means of really spreading more terror in the world, that is acting in such a way that tension is growing. They feel themselves as hunted people, as people under siege. Now that mentality can end only, you see, when all these theories are blown up. And if we can, you see to it in India. In India also, for instance, one of the latest reports, known as the Sachar Committee report, has pointed out that the status of the Muslims, their position in the country's politics, its economics, its social life, its administration, in every respect, you see, the Muslims are much less compared to their population strength. If they are anywhere, you see, more than their population strength, it is in jails. Because they are the hunted people, more or less.
So they have become the blacks of America.
They are the blacks of America. The Americans, of course, do not say that. They never admit it. They only point to us and to others in the world. Therefore, that question has to be solved according to the recommendations already made by the Sachar Committee report. And then we will be able to develop together.
Will India be forced to change some of its values, norms and attitudes because of globalization?
That is one big danger. I think, you see, we have a rich cultural heritage. We have traditions. Obviously, we have to move with the world. Nobody will deny that. But moving with the world doesn't mean, you see, accepting values that are alien to us and forgetting the rich traditions which are already with us. So therefore, you see, we have to keep up those traditions. We have to keep up all those values.
What are some of those values that we must hang on to?
Let me say that living together in a country, you see, which is so multilingual, multi-religious, multi-caste, even so we have been living together. You see, the newspapers, the media like yours, you see, always blow up the differences, the conflicts. But then we are living as neighbors, more or less. That is a tradition that we have learnt. I think there is much more of equality here than many other countries where racial inequality, you see, operates. Where, you see, others are looked upon as foreigners, as immigrants and so forth. In this country, you see, we have been able to absorb everyone. There is a famous poem by Rabindranath Tagore that in this country, in this great ocean of India, so many people have come and settled down here and we are mixed. So we have all that joint tradition. I call, you see, even our culture as the mixed culture of Ganga-Jamuna belt, in which everyone has contributed.
What will be the role of religion in 2025? Is it going to increase or decrease?
Today it is very much there. That is the unfortunate truth. But I think, you see, in the coming years it will decrease. Even though I am not very sure as to what role caste will be playing as in the sidelines. Because politics has again brought up the caste issue, you see, to the fore. Because people can always appeal to the caste in order to get their votes.
Right. Will that increase? Do you think caste issues are going to decrease or increase?
In times to come it will improve, but only, you see, when the basic problem of education, you see, jobs, the economic situation, all these, you see, are much more on an equitable basis. Why is there reservation today? Because according to our needs, there is a scarcity.